Hi everyone, it's Jerry. I have an instructive game to share with you from round 3, women's section of the FIDE Grand Swiss 2025. On the white end, Vaishali R, playing against Olga Badelka. Alright, with this one, we are looking at the Pirc Defense, A6, met with A4, no space allowed, knight C6, bishop E2. From here, black castles. Now, in the case of knight G4, white's prepared to exchange bishop for knight. If you move the bishop, D4, there's going to be a problem there. You don't have enough support for it. It would not be a problem for white to part ways with the light square bishop. F3 from here is healthy. Connect knights. White has a very strong center. All right, how black plays it, more development. Castles it is. Knight F3. The response is E5. In the case of knight G4, you can now move the dark square bishop. You have enough support for D4 with the knight on F3. Knight G4, preserve the bishop. Maybe it gets kicked around. Black is not getting at that dark square bishop. We have here E5, space for white on the queen side. Forget about knight G4. In this game, we have move 10, knight H5. Now, both players have used quite a bit of time to get to this point. Each player began the game with 100 minutes. After these 10 moves, white has 30 minutes remaining, black 45 minutes. Now, from here, we see castles. I want to touch on a couple other moves. One that is tempting, G4, and the other that's top, A5. In the case of G4, first of all, with knight H5, black's clearing the way for the thematic F5 break. If you play G4, this knight is not going to go back where it came from. Black is not going to gift white this valuable tempo. The king has not yet committed itself to the king side. Black is prepared by playing knight H5 to respond to G4 with this forward move. Knight F4. A pawn sacrifice. What would this look like if white goes in for this? Well, that's, first of all, the better bishop that's being exchanged for the knight, given the central structure, dark square bishop, the better one here. The idea for black with this line would not be in this position to continue with F5, as attractive as it is. Landing a fork, opening up the position for the dark square bishop, white would have a good response to that. In the case of F5, you take with the E pawn and then play E5 and say this pawn is an obstacle for multiple pieces. In the case of knight G6, queen D2 is a healthy post. What black could play with this pawn sacrifice line at this point here is C6. The evaluation is about equal. This is a fantastic piece, the unopposed bishop, a piece that is soon going to coordinate really well with the queen, who has an eye on B6. And there's really a big question with this pawn sacrifice line for the king, the white king. Where are you going after G4? Kingside isn't healthy. Queenside isn't so attractive either, with that pressure directly, indirectly on B2. This is not a good move in short to play G4. A5 is considered top. Now, if A5 was played, check this out. Black played knight H5 so that you could play F5 next. Well, if F5 is played here, here's the top response. The king is not yet committed to the king side. G4 would be there. And let me show you how attractive this can potentially turn out for white. If black is chopping twice on G4, if F4 takes, taking with the pawn is considered better. If we have two captures on G4 in this position, knight G5 is excellent. Doing what? Welcoming this bad for good bishop exchange. This is a very small investment for these open lines. Also a monster square available for this knight on E6. Okay. A5 in this position right here. Top. How many players, by the way, if you played A5 here, how many players do you think are continuing here with F5? The vast majority. All right, what we have here is castles, pop quiz, multiple choice, pop quiz. Are you going with F5 or Queen E8? Feel free to pause the video. Okay, in the game we see Queen E8. It says best in this position F5. Now, why is Queen E8 played? I believe it's to lend some support for the knight, which may soon be without some defense after an F5 advance and a couple captures. We're going to see that black has a slick move with that line. Black can play F5 straight away. Let's see what this looks like. After F5, first of all, it's already a bit of an uncomfortable position for white. The top moves that's being called for here, one of them is Queen D3. Not at all a fan of that, allowing this invasive F4. Another one is Bishop G5. Another one is to capture. Let me show you what's going on with this line here. Capture on F5, recapture. The knight is unprotected, but there isn't a good way to take advantage of it. If white tries this knight captures E5 move, black is not going to recapture at this point on E5. If you do, the knight hangs, and that is a very good position for white. Black would be winning in this position with F4. And now what? Black is going to win a piece. Knight hanging, bishop hanging. Bishop takes knight. Pawn captures bishop. You're on the queen. You collect the knight next. You're up a piece. Also, if you move the bishop, then there's pawn captures knight, and you're back on ready to take another minor piece. So black can, in this position here, successfully play F5. This is not a problem. We see here Queen E8, Knight H4, Knight not in any trouble, no tricks. Queen no longer on this diagonal. We see F5, capture on F5, and now the knight is questioned with this battery. It goes back to its favorite square. This is a strong duo, questioned straight away. From here it is E4. All right, let's see how the pieces adapt to this new structure. Black working with a connected passed pawn, white with some space here. There is a break in the position G4. Let's see how white organizes this advance. So queen steps up, king H8. Okay, this is a half open file. You have a square for the rook. Similar story here for white. Queen F7, have to babysit the D5 pawn. Rook G1, bishop C4, this is covered. Queen H5, another clock update. This here, move 20. Time remaining, white has 7 minutes, black has 15. All right, the knight covered. Rook A to E8, bishop D4, rook G8, and now white falls back with the bishop goes back to where it came from. Now, why is this played? These last two moves a little bit of a head scratcher. I believe it's related to this rook now being in a position to cover the bishop, to be one day potentially a convenient recapturer of the bishop on G7, if that is allowed. If there is going to be a dark square bishop exchange and the rook can be on G7, that's going to make life much easier, I believe, for black to organize the rooks. The square would open up on G8. There would be a nice battery here along the half-open G file. So white is in a way saying, no thanks. Let this bishop be an obstacle for your rooks. You can't arrange the rooks on the G5 so easily. So what we have here is bishop C8. Now this is where black is pretty much losing the thread in this game. Computer's not a fan of this. Here are a few of the top moves the computer does have an eye on. One is rook d8, the other is rook e to f8. How to describe them? They're pretty much passing moves. I'm not seeing any great point behind either move. Let me put on a move, another top move that is far more direct. Knight g6. This variation here, when I was preparing for this video, testing out this move right here was an eye-opener for me. After a move like knight g6, the best move here is to support the knight with g3. You really don't have a wide range of options. You're either taking the knight or defending the knight. The best way to play this would be with g3. Now, why is that so? If you exchange knights, this knight right here is now that much more powerful. If you do not have a knight on h4 or a pawn on h4, the pawn on h3 is in a pin. Careful. White in this position is ready to get forked. So the way to respond to knight g6 would be with g3. And as ugly as this is best. Double isolated pawns on the king side. There is a nice square here for a rook one day. Rook g5 can be very powerful. It's calling for h6 in this position, taking away that pivot. If you try to cover g5 with the bishop, let me show you a nice continuation here. You give this queen a kick, and then you hop straight into g5. Let me actually go back for a second. If you try rook g5 right here, bishop takes. If you take with the pawn, this is the direction you would want to take. That's where knight g4 would hit. The h-pawn would be pinned. So you first give the queen a kick. And then rook g5 here. This is an excellent position for white. Beautiful rook exchange, or an exchange sacrifice here for white. Chop, chop. This bishop is going to be a nightmare for black. Anyhow, I found this very instructive, how exactly to meet knight g6, g3 would be the way. How it's playing out here, we have bishop c8, bishop e2, queen backs off, and now we get this break with g4. Time pressure ends up getting to black at this stage. What we see from here is the capture on g4, and now the capture on d5. This here is now a losing move. The best move here is to play rook g to f8. We'll see what one of the main points is behind that soon enough. What we have is the capture on d5 here. Knight takes knight, knight takes knight, and yes, you can take yet again on d5, and that's what we see. The follow-up from here is bishop captures b2. If queen captures rook here, this is what white was prepared to play, had calculated. Knight g6 is there. This is a reason why that earlier mentioned rook and g to f8 was being called for, so that the king has a square in response to this idea of a check and a follow-up queen h4 check. In this position, black would now have to part ways with the queen. Pawn takes queen is there. Black with the bishop. It's going to be checkmate. So white at this stage right here is simply up material. Continuation is with bishop captures b2. The rook is preserved. White's playing up the piece. You advance with g5. Black's advancing in the center. White is just there first. Blasting through now with g6. Lines cracked open. Rook exchange. Square has opened up for the knight. Hop straight in with check. King takes. Bishop doesn't have to react. We have rook and g5, which cuts off the queen from controlling h4. Pawn takes bishop. The queen can now enter with check. Follow up discovered check. King f8. And after rook g8 check, black resigns. The queen is going to fall shortly. King takes rook, queen takes queen, king e7, rook captures rook, queen takes queen. Next, this one is completely lost for black. So a very nice game out of this. Pirc Defense. Feel free, as usual, to leave any feedback to this video in the comment section below. Hope you enjoyed it and maybe took a thing or two away. That's all for now. Take care.